Hi, my name is Randi Lincoln, and I'm a Senior Sales Director with Mary Kay. And I want to share with you my journey through cancer. I started Mary Kay when I was 27 years old, so I've been with Mary Kay for 38 years. And a lot of those years have been through cancer. I started with my very first cancer when I was 14 years old, and I had a spot on my left breast, which of course at 14 I didn't even have breasts at that time. And so my mother took me into my pediatrician, who was a specialist in cancer, and he actually did an exam on my other breast, and I actually had two cancerous lumps, one on each breast at 14 years old. He removed them in the office, said they were encapsulated, and I didn't even know what that meant when I was 14. He joked with me about having little eyelash stitches on my breasts and made me feel not quite so uncomfortable about it. And then for 5 years, I took a pill every day. I was a guinea pig for tamoxifen. The next time I had breast cancer, I had become a nurse. I was a labor and delivery nurse, and it was on left breast again. Of course, I worked with most of the oncology team and GYN there where I was living, and we just kind of took care of everything. Once again, a deep lumpectomy. The next time I had breast cancer, I was 24 years old, still a nurse on the other side, and at this point, knowing that something was going on here because this was a bit more than usual. And my mother, at 61 years old, called me. She had breast cancer. Honestly, it was harder for me going through my mother's cancer than it was my own. She lived about 120 miles away, and she called me and she said, "Oh, honey, I knew I was going to lose my hair. I just didn't know I was going to lose it all in one night." I, of course, jumped in the car and headed to her. She was 80 years old, and they had followed her like a hawk because of her cancer, taking great care of her, checking for everything. And they found her second cancer. This time it was uterine cancer. And at the time, we did not know that it was terminal, but it was stage 4. So my sister and I went with her to the oncologist. And actually, the oncologist said, "Has anybody else had cancer in your family?" And I said, "I have. I had breast cancer at 14, 22, 24. And she said, 14? And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Anybody else?" And my sister, unbeknownst to me, leaned forward and said, "Yes, I had uterine cancer at 39 with a hysterectomy." She said, "Anybody else?" And I said, "Yes, my only other sibling is a brother, and he actually had thyroid cancer and had the entire thing removed." She said, "I hate to ask this, but anybody else?" And my sister said, "Yes, my daughter at 25 had uterine cancer and had a hysterectomy." And at this point, I'm panicking, not knowing that this had gone on with my whole family. So she asked us, the doctor asked us if it would be okay if she sent us to a geneticist who was a friend of hers at the University of Toledo Medical Center. And of course, we said yes, and he had us on the phone before we were even out of her office. So we headed over that way, and thank God he gave us to Dr. John Geisler and his wife, Dr. Kelly Manahan, who are OB/GYN oncology specialists. It was more like family than it was anything else. So while he was doing the hysterectomy on my mother, I was having something going on here with my neck, and I'm, 120 miles away from everybody. And all of a sudden, I had this like golf ball come up on my neck. And I went home to Fort Wayne, Indiana to see what was going on with my neck. And I went to a doctor that I had raised when I was a young nurse. And I said, I've got this golf ball. And he said, well, I think it's just like your ducts in your mouth are just plugged, and I think that's what it is. And I said, look, I have a really bad history of cancer. Could we just do a ultrasound on it? And although he wasn't real happy with me, he did do the ultrasound. So the next morning I went and had the ultrasound with contrast. And I asked them to send the results to my mother's oncologist in Toledo. So I had it done, headed back to Toledo. And when I got to the university, the doctor was waiting for me at the door. He said, you're right, come with me. They did a CT scan. And about 2 weeks later, they removed the largest thyroid tumor, cancerous, that they had ever seen at the University of Toledo. And I started a trial of radiation that would change how they take care of thyroid cancer forever. So that was all done there, and we indeed lost my mother to her terminal uterine cancer. And at this point, we're trying to figure out what is happening. Why do we have all this going on in the family? And of course, I'd lost my mother-in-law to breast cancer. My mother-in-law was my recruiter in Mary Kay, and I lost her before I got my first free car. And she, of course, was not part of the thing, but we wanted to know if there were genetics going on. So 13 years later, it took us that long to get a geneticist here in Fort Wayne, because my sister is now living here in Fort Wayne. And we went to have the genetics test, and hers was done first, and she was clean. There were no genetic issues at all. He was shocked. I was shocked. And he said, so you're the one with the multiple cancers? And I said, I am. And he said, let's do the genetic testing on you. And he did, and guess what? Mine was clean too. So I called Dr. Geisler, who is now in Atlanta, Georgia, and he said, you're a DES daughter. And I realized what that was. A lot of people don't know what that is. Diethylstilbestrol was given to my mother because she had had several miscarriages. And while I was intrauterine, they gave her diethylstilbestrol, which is now banned and caused cancers and multiple issues. But at least we knew what it was. I want you to know that my recruiter, my mother-in-law, got an actual phone call from Mary Kay Ash, who is also a survivor, to encourage her. And when my mother had her breast cancer, she wasn't even in Mary Kay, but because I was a director, Mary Kay called my mother and had a conversation with her. And to know that the CEO of our company cared that much and understood that much about cancer. You know, when I was 14 years old, there were no cures. They did radical mastectomies, and you either lived or died. I was blessed indeed. And I love to use this platform to tell other people early is best. You're talking to a woman who had breast cancer 4 times before I would have been old enough to have a mammogram right now. They're saying 40 years old. I probably wouldn't still be here. But what I do like to do is I have a lot of people who have breast cancer, and I do this chemo care kit. And I'd like to talk to you about what I put in it and why. Now, I have multiple things in it right now because I know there's a lot of things that aren't really available all the time. I will tell you, and any other cancer survivor who has had treatment will tell you, this is the bomb when it comes to our skin. Because of our treatments, our skin is so scaly and so dry. And this is fabulous because it's clear, it's not sticky, it takes care of that on contact, and it has no scent. That's something that you have to be careful when you're talking with your patients who are either going through chemo or going through radiation, because we can't tolerate scents. We just can't tolerate any scent at all. I do show them how to use the extra emollient night cream, but for about half of my customers, it is too much scent. So I like to give them instructions and a mini size so they can try it and see if it works. If it works for their skin, they need to know that it works with a little warm water. Just massage it into the skin, maybe when you get out of the shower or the bathtub, and it absorbs right in. It's fabulous for our skin. What I do love, and everybody says, where do you get this? Where do you get this? Because we can't separate the fragrance-free scrub. This is actually Mary Kay's Satin Hand Soap. I keep it in my shower. It's one of the best fragrance-free shower scrubs that we can give to people. It's not too harsh on our skin, and it's absolutely fragrance-free. The other thing I like to give them is the foot and leg energizing cream. I'll tell you, people who have diabetes and people who have had cancer treatment have neuropathy in their feet and legs, and so do I. It's just ridiculous. It's like little ants crawling all over, and then it burns, and then it itches, and it's just ridiculous. The foot and leg energizing cream is fabulous for that. A little bit on, it's not right in their face, so that fragrance doesn't seem to bother most people. But I'm really picky about what I give to them. The other thing is, I know that we can't get these anymore, but even the hydrogel mask, I'll put one in there because our skin is so dry. The actual medications that they're giving us are toxins. And what we need to do is just regenerate as much as we can, as fast as we can. The other thing that I like to give people, and this was absolutely one of the most favorite things that I could give them, was the lip balms. The lip balms that we had that are no longer available. I'm very funny about giving people the Satin Hands lip balm because the Satin Hands or Satin Lips set is shea, and a lot of people have peanut allergies, and a lot of people who are going through treatment, it actually steps up those allergies, and I really don't want to start something with them that they don't have. So this is my cancer care chemo care kit. I give it to people. I actually share that if people know someone who needs one, to let me know. And when I put it out, I have people that say, here's the money for 3 cancer chemo kits. Just give it to them anonymously. So it's a great opportunity for people to try something and pamper themselves at a time when it's really, really hard. Here I am, a Sur-thrivor, 5-time cancer survivor. It doesn't always get us. Thank you, Mary Kay, for the Mary Kay Ash Foundation.